So we have to start again from the beginning. This is instructional media design and production. And the lesson we are going to do today is we are going to look into something concerning print materials. And we are looking into print materials as some or examples of instructional materials, right? So in print materials, we have got different forms of these print materials that are used for instruction, and they have got different advantage or benefits based on the particular type or form that has been used, and it's going to be based on a specific context that one or an instructor or a teacher will decide to say this particular print material is maybe the best according to this context. So that's what we wanted us to look into. And say under this, we're going to look into a number of them. Print materials like talk about journals, talk about books, posters, leaflets, newspapers, newsletters, magazine, banners, billboards, brochure, just some of them. These materials. If we go to think about print materials, in terms of its production, they do go into similar stages of production in terms of the use of technology, right? But what happens is like it's a similar stage because we are referring it to the old type of, if you trace it back to where the printing process started, right? That's what we made here. In the background of the printing processes, whereby there was a printing machine, right? There was a printing machine that was invented, and they were like having physical type, right? Because when we were talking about this type, they had the characters, physical characters that are going to be that were used to print. There was to print on the paper, right? So as time go, as we are coming to this age, the invent of computer is the one that changed everything, because the process of now printing or typing, it has now gone digital. It's all about digital production, right? But the concept behind, in the background, is the same concept that was borrowed from the old type, physical type, or like like the mass production type is traced back, as we talked about later before, to Gutenberg, the one who invented the printing press. So the idea did progress from that. Then we have the technology that is being used for printing. So usually the idea of having this printed material is like they are not just printed for the sake of it, right? Whatever material that are printed, they are printed because there's a purpose, there's a reason why that particular materials are being are printed, right? So usually you have got something that I mean the element whereby you have to have an idea to say there's something, there's an idea that is needed to be expressed in a certain way, and you choose the particular format that is supposed to be put into, and usually in regard to the audience, if it's going to be maybe an individual, you know that, okay, this is going to be a right one. If it's going to be a group, this is going to be maybe a appropriate one. It's going to be in another form you're going to choose. It will depend on the audience that are going to be receiving the particular messages. So as we talked about using these materials for learning or for teaching, to convey specific message to the learners, print materials are one of the honest. If you go to check like the materials that were now used formally, to say we are using this for instruction in modern times, is the print materials, right? You have, it has got this history, right? So as you hear talk about print materials or media, although here just say or media, but let me say the printed materials to be specific, have been one of the oldest and the most popular of the instructional devices for passing on information to the people, right? And usually it's also basic, as I say, on the audience, whereby it's been proved that it's one of the easiest type of instructional material, whereby audiences they don't have much problem to grasp the material, right? There are so many ways you can that you can be used by print materials that make it a little bit simpler for people to to understand. So that's according to the research that was being done before, and because if you think about printed materials, you are connecting it with the visual media, right? This is part of the visual media, right? So if you think about the visual media, you discover that when we talk about print material, we are talking about not just text, right? You could have text, you could have actual images, right? Drawings, you could have photographs, right? So it has got that ability whereby you could combine text and photographs or graphics to enhance that process, right? So let's see here, talk about the print media by the virtue of their form. They also have a very wide outreach and ease to absorb and grasp by the learners, and all forms of printed text and other printed forms are visual communication and embedded in print materials. So this is just what we talk about, that since visual, that's the advantage that it also has over, with this process, assuming that it was just maybe, let's say, audio, right? Audible voice without people seeing anything. It will be somehow a problem, because to demonstrate some other complex concepts would be a little bit tougher. But this one, I think we already also know where we're coming from, right? We have been having books, right? And usually, if you have books, usually books that were easier to read, were the ones that combine images and the text, right? We remember we had the Saturday 4 book, whatever, but those that have maybe stories with images, maybe drawings, we would read and then watch the graphic, imagine, and it ended that the process, right? So you have even the formats whereby you could decide how to generate more interest, right? So in the meantime, for the print, magazines and newspapers are the ones that has been proven to be generating more interest to the people, right? If you go around, you discover people here, they are going to be willing to buy a newspaper, right? Or a magazine than any other printed material, right? So the issue, because in the newspaper, they utilizes a lot of text. There is text. Usually there's images are there, but there's a lot of utilization of text. No wonder you have those headlines, bigger headlines and whatever. And the text is the story, the content. On the magazines, there's a lot of utilization of the images, right? You have good looking, beautiful images, right? So you have that. And at the same time, if you think about for advertisers, right? If you can ask advertisers, you find out that the print media is one of the cheaper platform for advertisers. If you can go to Nation, they will tell you, okay, one page is maybe 200,000 color. So you think it's expensive, eh? But now, if you can say, okay, how far is this newspaper going to reach? Think about the demographic area, right? So imagine you should plate that paper color. So you should produce copies to reach all those millions of people. How much will it cost? You discover that this is cheaper, right? So why is it cheaper? It's cheaper because even because of its form or form. What? Because the people say no, radio could be much more cheaper. But the thing is, radio you pay once, right? They will broadcast your advert once. It's gone. People cannot rewind it, right? If you want to play it another time, you have to pay again. Newspaper, you're going to pay once, but the people are going to have that newspaper forever, right? It's like the advert that is going to stay there. They can see it any other day. So if you think about it, discover no, newspaper is much more cheap, especially for these advertisers. Right? People might not look at your advert. One day or the time they will get the paper, they will start looking at that advert, right? While in the radio, you think about if they are busy, if it goes, it goes. They will never listen to it again unless you pay again. So, yeah, you could look at that point again to say that it is inexpensive, not cheap, but it's relatively cheap, right? Okay. So since this is the print material, it means the materials have to be printed, right? So just have to explore the concepts of printing here. Printing refers to both industry as well as putting down the words on paper, right? So what is now more accurately referred to the making of impressions, right? But if you say print media, it's the industry, right? Yeah, but it's the industry that is involved itself into producing print or printed materials, right? And all the idea behind is making the impression, right? So what we are trying to do is impression. What are we talking about? If we say impression, right? This is going to be read by people. So it's like the way you're going to present it, if it's not going to be appealing, people are not going to be interested with it, right? So it means you have to decide to say, okay, we're going to print this, but now how are we going to make it appealing, right? That's trying to make an impression, right? That whereby when people see it, it should affect them. the way you want it to be affected, right? So, and as we already talked about, if you think about the concept of printing, the actual production much more goes to now dealing with this, what is called is the process of, if it's going to be the text itself, typography, right? Typography, whereby you are having that process of working with type, right? To decide to say, okay, this document, you should use this font, you should use this font size, you should use this color. All those, that's what you're going to be deciding, right? That's the process of trying to make it appealing, right? To make an impression. Because there are some other printouts, you need them to be color, right? I think if you have ever seen nowadays, people, these artists who are now more into marketing, right? In the past, when they say we have got a show, they used to just have a black and white poster, right? But it was not appealing. Most of the people, if you see the black and white poster on the wall, on the tree, people are not even paying attention to it, right? But now, if you can have the same poster, colored one, right? Very beautiful. You see somebody stopping, and because of the way it looks, right? So if you have seen these shows by most of these now artists, like my shows like Lake of Stars, right? Whereby they are following now actual marketing process, or a serious marketing process. You see, they usually pre-sell the tickets. You don't have to say, okay, tikupita ukuku kubwera antu ambiri tikalipira pakomo. What if sukabwera antu ambiri? Inde kuti bubese, simalipira kale those, but the professional, what they do, Muzaka show 3 months ago, 3 months to come, you produce tickets and you sell the tickets before the show, right? So if you check those tickets, you discover they are well packaged tickets, right? The very professional design, colored one, and all those. If you check the charges, usually they're 30,000, 40, 50. But because of the packaging and the timing, if you say there's going to be a show in December, 40,000, very good show. It means you're going to start saving from now. Usugaga 5 mwezi uno, mwezi wa mwaso ka 5. By that time, you are going to afford to pay 40,000, right? But you see here, if you say, okay, we have got a show 5,000, but you are telling the people, I mean, even you're just telling the people now the show is tomorrow, even 3,000, but the show is tomorrow. A poster is not so even well packaged. You discover it had a low turnout, but it was a very cheap show. How did that happen? So that's one of them. But I think nowadays you see what we're talking about, in the sense that you see the billboards. Nowadays, my billboards are nowadays you see that before. Normally, if you see them, you see the colors are black and white. Color, well designed. And usually they know where to place them, a strategic place, and people, and normally to know who that they don't advertise. You could just look at them, you see the many details. You see the price, you see the location, the venue, without even stopping. Yeah, because that's the whole idea. But if you can have, I think you have to see, I gave an example of the billboards. If you have seen those billboards before in the roads, have you ever seen a billboard whereby you have got a lot of text on the billboard? If you have checked billboard, it's a bigger one, but you have very few text, image, and very few text, but it's big. And you tend to wonder, why do they have, but then you have a small poster full of text, but it's also small. So it's at the tree, not even where you can stop on it, just somewhere in the bush. And they expect that people that are going to stop from the vehicle and go at the bush and read it from the tree. So that's why you can understand why maybe it can be a problem. But I mean, it's a combination. But when it comes to print, you need to consider all the elements that are important. And here talk about there is that the materials to be printed, they're going to go into the process, And then you talk about, as I talk about the industry, it talk about the printing industry, talk about the actual process that goes down to make that impression. They are going to have machines that are going to be used to make the impression we are talking about. And now the machines that are going to that are used to do that, they are the ones that are called printing machines, right? Because you use it printing, right? Printing machines. Um, it's usually, if you're going to talk about the actual ones, they're a little bit complicated. If you think about the recent one with the modern technology, we have got now, they are complicated but less portable ones, let me just say. We've got now these printers, laser printers, right? So you can use them like that. Um, so usually when we talk about printing, and that's now how you see the advantage of these printing materials, because when you just think about it as a whole, you say, okay, what thing can we talk about? Maybe one of the major advantage. You're thinking about mass production, right? If you can print, it means you can reproduce in a large quantity, right? So books. The author doesn't have to write a book and they give one person and they write another one to give another person and write another one. Had it videos like that, it would be a problem, right? But the author will write one book and the book will be printed, right? Right? So something like that. But now you have materials like, as we talk about books, journals, uh, posters, flyers, leaflets, similar materials. All of them, they are different in the form, nature, but usually they go through the same process, right? Of printing, right? In one way or the other. So here, let's just appreciate the book production. When you think about the books, the process of coming up with the book, usually, I mean, is the same similar process of the old printing process, right? Whereby materials somebody has to have the concept somewhere, then they have to put it on paper, then it has to be taken to a machine, be printed, then the papers have to be binded somewhere, right? But if you think about the book, nowadays, in terms of instructional material, right? You have got books on any topic, all topics. I don't think there's a topic whereby you can't find a book, right? So for the mere fact of having a book on all topics, it makes it good or easier, right? To say it could be a very good instructional materials. No wonder we have all the classes that we have. You find that we have got books. We use books, right? I don't think there can be a course or a program that doesn't have books, right? So it's how how vital it is. So you have got all these books of different nature aspects, like some of them are pure academic, some are going to be dealing with other subjects, not just academic ones, but maybe to inform, maybe to entertain, or maybe to deal with other elements, right? So, also books are the ones that usually are used as the reference material, right? In most fields, right? Most of the fields, when they will say, okay, just check most of the, even in research, whatever, they'll be referring to the books, right? At the same time, you would even think about it as a storage of information, because if you check the history, like even how information about the Bible or the Quran, whatever, they were taken from printed materials, right? they had scrolls. It was they were written materials. Then it's a printed materials because let me just say that we must say that an original because somebody wrote on paper, but now for the preservation part of it, right? Those materials had to be reproduced and kept somewhere, right? Reproduced in a certain way. Now, because of that reproduction of this material, printed material, we managed to still have them, like the books. You see that if you check the book, you got to check all the details. You find out that maybe the first book was 1939. The other one was produced in maybe again 1971. The same version was now reproduced. So what they're doing is that they are preserving the book, even improving it, but preserving. So you have got that ability with these the books. So I think it's just like to say that coming up with a book, which is like an exercise, say here. Okay, I think I skipped the part of the history in the past. I'm talking about the history of the print, but you can look it out like Johannes Gutenberg. I think I talked about it later on, whereby to talk about the printing press. So let's just appreciate what else. Here, just briefly say that okay, the process of writing a book, whereby it starts with somebody who's going to have an idea, which will lead into collecting the collection of information through literature or through whatever is available, or experiments. Then the material are going to be supposed to be put down by an author. There should be somewhere else, maybe a paper or a manuscript, as it's been said. You have to take the ideas, the information you have, write them on paper, right? Then after that, usually that's just a basic one. You know, on paper, you give to some people to do. It's an editing process, right? Some people should go through to edit it, right? Because that one is taken as a draft to say, okay, maybe there are errors. So they have to edit one or two things. And now, after everything is in shape, is where you think about, okay, if it's a book, what illustrations are supposed to go with the story, the information? You want to have the pictures, the diagrams, the graphs. So there's going to be that process of having illustrations or diagrams or figures, and that will be going along with it. And then you have the ideas, then it's where you are going to think about, that's where the typography comes in. What font type are you going to use? Because if you go to check the books, even in the library, you discover that they don't use the same font, right? Even starting from the font size, even type, right? Nowadays, you discover, I don't know if you have ever seen it before. I can even give you a task. If you can go to the library, try to find out a book that was written in 19 maybe 70, 60, if they have them. Look at the way they will look. Most of the books from 1960, 70, you're going to find they were packed with text. They were like the old novels. You see the picture, and usually some of them they were not even having an appealing cover, right? But there were a lot of text inside, no images or few images. But now, after a while, the people they have done, I think there's been research over time. Because I remember, but books like those, for you to read, it means you have to be somewhere else 100% concentrating, right? You have to go yourself and hide in the library. Maybe for the first 1 hour, you are figuring out, you are trying to understand it, right? Because you could read a line and repeat it, because the lines are too close. But now they discover that no. There's this element of readability, right? You need to make the display of elements appealing by type of font size, color, white space, and all those. That's design, editing, and design. So you discover most of the modern books, if you can just check my educational books, I mean, my 2000 account, you see that they are pictures here and there, but you see they will have font type which is easier to read, right? Usually, I don't know, but let me say easier to read. They will even have those boxes like pull quotes, pull quotes. Besides, they will have colorful images, right? And usually you have even on the page, a page, I mean, a large part of the page image, small part of the page type. So it's all trying to make sure that it's easier to read, right? So that is going to be done, and then after deciding on that, you go to type to the actual making a decision after deciding all those, because it's a process. Once you have a book, you can write everything we write. Now you need to decide on how big the headlines are going to be, how big the subheadings are going to be. Okay, what color are they going to be? What type is it going to be? This. So it's all those. You think about it. After everything is done, is where you are going to be decided to say, okay, they should be go to be printed now, right? Because it's not a matter of just to say, okay, I'm creating a book. This is the content. No, they have to be those decisions be done. So for the printed, for the instructional materials, they make sure that it should be easier to read, right? Easier to follow, right? So there's nowadays, because it's digital printing, you don't see much what happens beside, but you have got these plates that do the job. Um, then you have got also the use of journals, because those are the books. Books, I think we can't even say, overstated the importance of books. I think, can we say that we don't, maybe we can have a problem to understand the importance of books on instruction, right? We have used them before. So the easiest experiment to say, how are books maybe vital in the process of instruction, or as an instruction medium? Just ask yourself where you're coming from. You have used the books. How did the books help you to reach where you are? Then you are going to see yourself that, oh, I think books, right? They helped, right? Nowadays we're having digital books, but there's still books, right? So then we have journal production. So journal production, when you see journals, you even someone say, what is the difference? Because I don't know in our library if there's that demarcation, because you have, I think you have said it, maybe it is there. You have books, there's a section where they write periodicals. You have said it's a section like that one, right? Periodicals. Maybe you have never looked around. Try to go there. There should be a section of periodicals, right? So journals are printed materials, but they are periodicals, right? So the process of of journals, like, it's the same process. It's like they look like they are books. Usually, you see, this is a book. So when we think about how they are produced, it's similar to the process of the books. But the difference is that, first, the format. The format of the journal is different from the book. In the sense that usually books are written by one person or two people, three. few people. While a journal, usually you will have articles written by so many people in one book, in one collection. Let me see. You can have not. I mean, it's like a book. You could have one topic, could be this topic, and then three people are going to be writing about the same thing. But in a journal, you could have different topics written by different people, right? But they form one package, right? So that's maybe one of the major difference between the journals and the books, no ordinary books. Um, and also, usually, as I said, that there is that element of being periodicals, right? Journals usually have got a specific period whereby they will release another version. For example, if you think about some, they say some will be quarterly, some will be biannual. What do you mean? Some you have a journal that will come maybe after 1 month, right? Every month will be coming out, right? Some will be coming after 2 months. So they have got that pattern, right? That usually they are published every specific period. So some, as I say, they have got a specific period, biannually, January, quarterly, or whatever. But when it comes to periodicals, right? Because here, maybe when they say journals, it's taken as to say, okay, this is like a book. But when you go to the section of periodicals, you discover that newspapers are going to be found there. Why are newspapers being found on the periodicals? Newspapers got a specific period, isn't it? You know that there's going to be like daily newspapers, That's a period. Some of their weekend newspapers. I don't know if you have got weekend newspapers nowadays in Malawi, but some will be coming after a week. So it's also still periodicals, And also you can link it to the sense that in the newspaper, do you have articles written by one person? Do you have and all those people? Do they write one story? Right? You find that you have got the stories written by so many people, sports guys. So it's similar to what you have like a normal journal, but there's an element of, whereby it's reasonable when you find it on the periodicals and you consider it as a journal. Although when we look at it, the analysis we are doing, we usually look at the newspapers like as a separate print material because of its quality and the attributes. So, but if you think about the journal perspective, you see usually there are similarities, right? Yeah, but maybe the major difference could be that ordinary journals usually they don't come up uh, as often as newspapers, right? Because they're coming out like daily. That's too often, right? Usually journals could be at least there could be a period like as we say the minimum could be maybe a monthly, something like that. Later you can find weekly. So yeah, but I think you can still no. But what we're talking about is if you think about whatever the production of these are, you can try to link it. If you try to link it to our area of concern, if they are going to be for education purposes, right? It means, there's going to be upgrades, right? You're going to know that, okay, we have got this material after 1 month, there's going to be new material coming after this. So it's something that you can keep track of if you are using that particular materials for your own instruction, because you'll be looking at the version, the edition. For example, if this particular let me say editions, they should be having a specific themes, right? If you think about if it's a business channel, it should be talking about something to do with business. So usually an edition have got a specific theme. The next one, so you could be able to try to link that up, right? And then say the channel is directed at a specific group of readers, right? As I said, that usually it's not random as newspapers, whereby you just mix, right? That is, there's sports, there's usually journals are specific. For example, as I say, if this is about business, they're going to be all business. If they are going to be talking about something, the whole journal will be talking about that, right? That field. So, unlike if you think about maybe papers, newspapers, whereby you have sections of different, completely different material, I mean, content, right? And the what else? Uh, And usually also here they talk about containing light materials, right? That a journal usually, I mean, when you think about the light materials, right? You so talking about if there are these materials that are, for example, not just light materials, because if you think about, let me say, breaking or use heavy concentrated material, deep materials, you find them, they are going to be in the book, right? If there is maybe, let me say, a commentary, someone is just commenting on something, right? That could be a journal, right? You have a lot of element of opinion, or so it could be usually that. But if you are having, like, for example, research findings, you don't find the research findings usually in a journal. That is going to be a book, because of the nature of the information. So most of the times, if you find the periodicals, that's why when you go even in the library, where you are going to find news, like if you are liking them, right, in terms of serious content, you discover that news will be taken as, newspapers will be taken as one of them, because of the hard news, although news is mixture, hard news and soft news, but there's hard news. Then the journals will come. Maybe later on, then you have the magazines, right? Because the journals will be in. I mean, okay, if it's serious, then you could be. If it's lacking of the content, books could be at the top, because that's all serious usually. If you want to concentrate it on that, but still it will depend on maybe how you can like it. But usually on these, you have those that could be called the light materials because of the content, but they're still helpful for that you can utilize them. And here they're talking about the production crew. As I said, that usually a journal also usually has a large production crew that includes an editorial board, writers, and different types of editors, including production editor. The reason is because they are dealing with write-ups from different people. So they can't just have one person or two people. They have a little bit legalized, like the way a newspaper production is. Because the newspaper production, why it is the way it is, if you go to newspaper production, you have got to find that you have got so many people at the newsroom, editors, some editors, because the content that is inside, it needs specialization, maybe with a specific angle, and it's from different people. So that's why there's that element. Unlike if you think about a book, just like a book, because a book, usually the author could be the main person, right? The author or authors. The few people will be consulted to just preview the book, right? After everything has been done, right? So there might be a number of people, but not as many as you can find maybe if you're having on maybe this production of this type of material, like the journal, right? Okay, so journals also have publishers who could be individuals or organizations who have been registered with the National Library. Okay, that's talking about the National Library, or maybe the publishers, any publishers. Now we also have these. I think you can know what these are. We have seen them before. We have seen that. I don't know. Have you watched any of this? Jurassic Park. It's a movie. That is a movie. The center one is a movie This one is a movie again. Did you watch any of this? Alien, Jurassic Park? You don't know anything about Jurassic Park. You have never heard about Jurassic Park. You have never seen that image somewhere else. But I kind of t-shirts. You have the organization, they have got t-shirts of this. But maybe you have seen it them before. Indiana Jones. You have never heard about Indiana Jones. Okay. What are these? What are you seeing here? What do you call this? If you can call this alone, not all of them, separately. When you see this, you see this on your Kalama video cassettes. Then you have DVDs nowadays, but you have this on the flight. Then you have that one. That's a movie, that's a movie, that one. What do you call this? A name. Just think about, just simply, if like we have got the DVD, young film, then there's this picture, but DVD boy, flat, even cassette. Nobody the channel, nobody could have. Or sorry, what you are saying, but in the name of what, like the way we say, the mango, the mango, eh? So Ijiji is the same thing. It is having different images, different designs, but the name of this is the same. I wanted to test what you think. Okay, it seems like you don't have a clue. You don't have a clue. Maybe you are afraid to say what you think. Okay, you have heard the name poster. Have we ever heard the poster? But poster, actual poster. I mean, I don't know what a poster is. So this is a poster, right? There was a period in the I don't know what period. Kids used to have an album poster. They would take movie pictures like this and they stick them in a book, right? Different ones, right? So this is a poster, right? It's like it's been designed. It would be of anything, but you can see it is designed to be appealing. Even in my films, like the way the musicians does with their music. They call them album art, but it's like a poster. You design it to be appealing to sell your product, but you try to use elements that will give a clue to whoever is looking at it to say what this could be about, right? For example, if you can see that one, you would have an idea. I think this should be, if it's a film, it has to do with something like with dinosaurs. Well, that's a skeleton of a dinosaur. This one, if you see it, you say it should be something to do with an adventure, like an adventure of some kind. Because adventures, you go around, you go to India, you go to all those, like you're traveling around, right? So the design is giving you that feel. That you can, it's about this. That one was to do with aliens. That is the movie Alien. Yeah, one of the, if you check to the movies, there are so many versions of the Alien, but the first Alien movie, that was a poster. So these are like in Hollywood, there are some movie covers or posters that are iconic, right? They define the period where Hollywood movies were popular. These are one of them, some of them, right? Like Jurassic Park, they could sell, I'm telling you, they could sell just using this image, this design. They have got the children bags, they have got the mapes, they have got the t-shirts of just this. So all these, they use like, they're like the same mechanization, right? So for instruction, you can also use the same. You can also use this approach of a poster for this instruction, right? Then what you're going to do, you are going to design something like, now you are going to put elements that you want to teach those letters, but they're going to be designed like the way what you are saying here, whereby creative design and letting these people who are saying to like think of what they are saying, right? And so I just gave like those are like few examples, but here talk about like posters, uh, and he say this is just a general name given to materials which are usually printed on the cardboard or other extra large sheets of paper. Usually a poster, the posters we're talking about, like if you see movie posters, you don't find them in an A4 size like this usually. If they want to start, usually they will have the maybe bigger. And the best example is, I said, when you go to kindergarten, you see those bigger walls, papers that are on the walls, right? Those shiny papers, colored papers, those are posters, right? But they are going to have maybe book, a certain book, right? A kid's book, eh? So that is an approach of instruction that is being used by those people at the kindergarten or learners, teachers, to help, to assist in instruction, right? So you could decide to do that. So the easiest way is like, because I say, if you are in instruction, you think about, okay, what could be the impact of a poster, right? Because somehow the poster will let somebody think, because if there's, we can have an image here. We can be talking about something, but I think you have ever said before, maybe somewhere where there's a certain big image, you passed all the time when you do something. One day, you must have said, do much younger. You start asking questions. Most of the time, it's like when you see, like even those billboards, whereby you could see, and most of the billboards, they don't try to put them like a normal. They try to take the same concept. Difference, like we talk about billboards, they're bigger ones, but the poster are a little bit smaller, but usually it would be on paper. They'll paper printed on the cardboard or on the paper, but they'll be displayed somewhere. Now it would, initiate that element of critical thinking into the learners, and if you are trying uh, to even display or showcase something, it's going to be easier for learners to understand what you are showing. Usually, as I said, that it's a little bit bigger image, and you could put it at somewhere else, place it where it's going to be like a permanent place, whereby people, learners will be just looking at it, right? So I gave an example that if you go to kindergarten, they are permanently placed there all the time. When you enter, you can even tell that this is maybe 2-year-old classroom, right? Or 2-year-old classroom, something like that. By looking at what you are looking at on the walls. So all these pictures, as I posters, I say you could have a poster where you're going to have a picture, you could have a graph, you could have a chart, or anything that is you want to show, right? And usually you have that, like the way example I gave to sell these posters, you gonna usually have writings on them, right? Somewhere, just a few writing words, to give you a clue. But if you see the words that are going to be placed there are going to be strategic, you don't have the words that are going to cover the whole area. You just have words in few places, just like the way it is, that one, But the also the process of production of posters is similar to other platforms, including the concept, the typesetting, the plate making, running in the process of the impressions. Because what we are talking about is the process of printing materials. We say you think about to make an impression, right? So the impressions are going to be made by manipulating type. This is type. You make a decision to say what type of font type you're going to use, what type, what size, font size, what color, all those, the space and all elements. So similar elements are going to be used in the posters. The only maybe addition would be, because it's a poster, there is going to be a lot more to do with the graphic design, like to do with the actual graphics, right? Because when you deal with only type, maybe you don't think about much of images, right? But if you think about the poster, the images or the graphics are going to be, or let me say the actual, let me be specific, because when you say just the graphics, it will be like as a whole, whereby you could also say this type, I mean, the type characters are also graphics, which is true. These are vector graphics, right? They are used in graphics. Why are they vector graphics? Just lines, So for you to say it's an AC, it's just a line that has been shaped, bent, something like that. But what I'm saying that there's a lot of use of graphics. Could be vector for sure, but maybe it's a graph or something, or it could be an image like a bitmap image, right? Actual photograph, or like in these posters, usually they will use photograph. But now there's that element of now manipulation of those photographs using softwares, packages, graphic software packages to achieve the impact that you want. Because what you're trying to do is the impact. And I'm saying that even what business people does in the albums and music, they visualize. Eh? You have seen them before, okay? To visualize, I want my picture to look like maybe so you can take pictures and try to manipulate it to give that impression, right? So that's just the process of do. But when the text is the same, the way you manipulate the other text is the way you're going to manipulate it in making posters. In a classroom situation, posters do not only carry useful information, they also beautify a classroom, right? Like I talk about in the kindergarten rooms, whereby they look really beautiful because of that. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I think we'll get it back. What do you put the room? What did you? They were going to she don't see my card to bed anyway. We do this. Yeah. Book like the all the time. Never for the the boss. These are mine again. Okay. Uh, to right. Right. So I'll just say that the posters in the classroom, apart from be used for instruction, they can also act as just something to beautify the room, the classroom, right? Yeah, because I'm saying that literally, in this room, if you're not learning anything, somehow it looks empty, right? Because when you're in the room, somehow, even if you're coming, umazafuna wayagane mina bage mina papa kuma mina para hadid bit bread my poster bali me. And they can even help you to concentrate. For you read kenda koma zaima, umazagana mina bage like to let it sink in, then you do so. That I know, we don't have those, but at the kindergarten, I think they knew. Now, Mama Gana, they will be busy. And when they're told, especially kids, if they are being told something and they are shown something, they easily recall what they have been taught. That they could go and cool. So that is also the use of these. So I just say this is just some like examples of this. And nowadays we talk about these movies. They are especially top-selling movies. They pay much more attention by designing the covers, the posters. Yeah, because somehow, like in the past, like people be buying a movie because of the poster. I remember the time when we used to be buying I'm borrowing, movies. You could borrow a movie because of the cover, the way it looks. But when you watch the movie, you say, it was not a good movie, right? The cover just fooled me. But they will say, it's the same as even the music. As I say that there are some new albums that you could buy because of the way the cover is looking. It was designed. But when you listen to it and you say, I think the cover was just, the cover is good. It's better than the actual music. But the thing is, for the creator of the covers, the job has been done. What the aim was, you wanted to sell, right? So people have managed to